Four men wanted to marry a woman known as Suzanne Tamim. The first one was a poor young man, the second one was a music producer, the third one was a boxer, and the other one was a politician and a billionaire. Who was this woman, Suzanne Tamim, who was loved by so many men? Suzanne Tamim was a Lebanese woman who was married between the age of 16 and 18 years old under the religious laws. The first marriage, Suzanne Tamim had no choice but to marry the man she was given by her parents. Suzanne Tamim stayed with this man and they were in love at first until a time when Suzanne Tamim engaged in a music contest and she won with little competition and she was given a 10-year contract. Then her troubles began when she released her first single and money started flowing in and the man started extorting Suzanne Tamim. So Suzanne Tamim did not feel good how her man was taking a lot of her money and she asked for divorce, but the man refused. Suzanne Tamim was married under religious laws which require only the man to divorce you. So Suzanne Tamim decided enough was enough and she escaped. Suzanne Tamim escaped to Paris and she had two issues that followed her. She did not know how she was going to overcome these issues. The first issue was her marriage and the second issue was the contract she had signed for 10 years. She had not finished this contract. How was she going to solve these two issues? In Paris, Suzanne Tamim was so stressed because she could not sing anymore and she also did not have enough money until one time she met a music producer. These two exchanged numbers and they talked days on end. Suzanne told the music producer the trouble she was going through until one time the music producer told Suzanne Tamim it was time to find solutions for these two issues. So one of the problems was easily solved, that of the contract. The music producer paid off the contract money, but the second issue, that of marriage, was really headache to both Suzanne Tamim and the music producer. They tried convincing the husband to just accept and divorce Suzanne Tamim because she had already left the country, but the husband refused. The music producer had to use another approach. This time he talked with the husband and he promised the husband that he was going to pay him $1 million if he divorced Suzanne Tamim. The money was sent and he divorced Suzanne Tamim. Suzanne Tamim was free, but not for so long. Within a short time, Suzanne Tamim signed another contract for 15 years with this music producer. The music producer also proposed to Suzanne Tamim and Suzanne Tamim accepted and they were married. Suzanne Tamim released a couple of singles which did so well and money started flowing. But trouble started when the music producer started controlling the finances which Suzanne Tamim could access. They quarreled days on end. There was trouble in paradise and it was time for Suzanne Tamim to find a solution, and the only solution was to save up money which she was being given by the music producer in small amounts. She saved and saved until one time she was ready. She booked a flight and went to another country. This time she landed in Egypt, but her troubles were not yet solved. After the husband discovered that Suzanne Tamim had escaped, he decided that he was going to ruin the life of Suzanne Tamim. He stopped Suzanne Tamim from performing anywhere, having any interviews or getting any money from her songs. Suzanne Tamim was broke in Egypt until one time she met a man, and this man was a billionaire, Hisham Talat, who was also a politician in Egypt. Suzanne Tamim did not waste any single time and told the billionaire all her problems. The billionaire did not believe that such a beauty was going through these problems. The first problem was the contract, and the second problem was that of marriage. So the contract, he solved it so easily by paying off the contract from the music producer, and she was free. However, the billionaire wanted one thing from Suzanne Tamim, and Suzanne Tamim was not willing to give him this one thing. The billionaire wanted the love of Suzanne Tamim so badly, but Suzanne Tamim refused to marry the billionaire. So the billionaire kept following Suzanne Tamim all over. He even put security guards to follow Suzanne Tamim all over, until one time when the security guards were not alert and Suzanne Tamim decided to free herself, and she escaped to another country, this time London. In London, Suzanne Tamim was free from any contract and marriage. She was ready to live her life once again. But Hisham Talat could not leave Suzanne Tamim to go just like that. He sent his security men to follow her in London, and they followed Suzanne Tamim day and night, day and night. Sometimes Hisham Talat was sending threatening messages to Suzanne Tamim, but Suzanne Tamim was not scared. She even went ahead and met another man who was a boxing champion, and they clicked instantly, and they fell in love and married. Hisham Talat heard this, and he started sending threatening messages, which Suzanne Tamim reported to the police. Hisham Talat even promised the new man of Suzanne Tamim that he was going to pay him $50 million if he divorced Suzanne Tamim, but the man refused. However, the relationship of the boxing champion and Suzanne Tamim did not last for so long, because one time Suzanne Tamim found out that the boxing champion was cheating with another girl, and Suzanne Tamim broke up with the boxing champion. Then she escaped to another country, this time Dubai. In Dubai, Suzanne Tamim met with one of her cousins, and they booked an apartment where Suzanne Tamim lived. These two communicated constantly, but one day Suzanne Tamim stopped responding to the cousin's calls or even text messages. So the cousin decided that this was so unusual, and she visited Suzanne Tamim in her apartment. When she reached the apartment, she could not believe her eyes. Suzanne Tamim was lying down flat, and a pool of blood was surrounding her. The cousin got so weak and started weeping immediately. Then she stopped and called the police, who responded to the scene swiftly and took Suzanne Tamim's body to the morgue. Then they started investigation. Luckily, there was a CCTV nearby, which the police took the tape, and whatever they saw, they did not believe. There was a man who entered Suzanne Tamim's house and left after a short time. The man's face, luckily, was captured by the CCTV. Investigations continued, and the man was arrested, taken to the custody, and interrogated. Police did not believe where the man had come from. The man came from way far from Dubai to come and accomplish the mission. The man stated that he was sent by a man from Egypt. The man paid him $2 million to come and kill Suzanne Tamim. The man was a retired police officer in Egypt. Egypt requested the man to be extradited back to Egypt so that he can face the full face of the law. The man was taken back to Egypt, and shortly after, Hisham Talat was also arrested, and it was found out that he had transacted $2 million with this man. Also, the phone calls with the killer and Hisham Talat really betrayed Hisham Talat. Both of them were sentenced by the court, and they were sentenced to death, each one of them. However, they appealed, and in the appeal, their sentence was reduced to 25 years. However, the billionaire Hisham Talat spent only 9 years and he was pardoned by the president. The killer spent 12 years in prison and he was also pardoned by the president. And that is the sad end of Suzanne Tamim. She was a promising young singer. She died at the age of 30 years old. Ladies and gentlemen, until next time.